Kanye West, or Ye, as whatever he decides to call himself these days. I don't know if that's what you call him. Yeezy. I don't know. I don't know. Either way, whatever you want to call him, could be in a little bit of trouble. You see, back in 2020, the artist formerly known as Kanye West ran for president, or at least pretended to run for president, which, of course, that run might have actually violated federal law. That's according to documents obtained by the Daily Beast. Now, I remember talking about that and saying, please, no more celebrities running for office. This is a terrible idea. Don't do it. And I also remember talking about how he was doing very little campaigning and actually had failed to get on the ballot in many states. Now, that's actually not surprising. Third-party candidates often do have a hard time getting onto the ballot. I think that is an issue. I think our system actually would be beneficial if a third party had some ability to challenge the two-party duopoly that we have. There would have to be some massive, actual systemic reform to enable them to actually do that, which we're nowhere near, by the way. And yet, nonetheless, Kanye is a little bit different because he ran as an independent, right? But as we're gonna note, that independent run was not so that Kanye could become president. It's so that it could help Donald Trump. That's actually what the documents are alleging. So now here's the thing. The New York Times, by the way, I'm going to start with this, reported last year that Republican activists in at least half a dozen states were involved with getting Kanye West's name on the ballot. So why would Republicans be in favor of Kanye West? Especially when Kanye West was like, oh, I'm in favor of Donald Trump. So I'm Donald Trump's friend. And I'm very close to Donald Trump now. And he's my buddy. Okay, so if Donald Trump's your buddy, why would you launch a campaign for president against him? And then why would Republicans in many different states try to get Kanye on the ballot? Very interesting. Now, the thing is, this was part of a plan. This was part of a plan to siphon black votes from Joe Biden. Now, that may have been the most dumbest plan imaginable. I mean, think about it this way. They're basically out there saying, hey, black voters, we just put up a black man, a rapper. Vote for him instead of Joe Biden. Which is exactly the kind of BS dog shit plan a Republican operative would come up with. Of course. It's not a good plan, not a smart plan at all. And it failed horribly. And at the end of the day, Kanye only ended up getting about 67,000 votes nationwide. Now, after the election, by the way, Kanye West's publicist had flown to Georgia to pressure a local election worker targeted by Trump to back up the false claims about voter fraud. That publicist initially denied that she was associated with Kanye West, but then, of course, later on had to be, was actually proven to be Kanye's publicist. So now that's stuff we already know. The new documents revealed in a lawsuit from a vendor accusing the campaign and consultants of a breach of contract show that West's campaign actually appears to have disguised potentially millions of dollars in services it received from a secretive network of Republican Party operatives. The campaign did not report some of these payments, which campaign finance experts told the outlet appeared to designed to conceal the Republican connections and could represent a violation of federal law. Again, more dumb things a Republican operative would absolutely do. Yes, let's astroturf the black guy with tons of Republican money in the hopes that he would siphon off votes, enough votes, from a Democrat so that a Republican could win. And basically, this is more a continuation of the Candace Owens walk away scheme, right? Oh, walk away from the Democrats. We're gonna Blexit, everybody. Now, look, if you want to say that the Democratic Party takes the black vote for granted, I would agree. I really do. Again, when you look at, for example, policy positions like student loan debt cancellation, the black community would benefit massively from student loan debt cancellation. Joe Biden has refused to do so, even though he literally does have the power in his hands to be able to cancel student loan debt. Inflation, right? Inflation hurts all of us. Black families are hurt more. Now, of course, I'm not blaming Joe Biden for the inflation, but there are certain things, certain policy positions that maybe he could do that would ease inflation for millions of American families, especially black families. Now, reparations, again, there's been no discussion on that. There's been no meaningful police reform since the death of George Floyd. And so as a result, I've been reading some articles where black voters are pretty angry and pretty, disappointed in Joe Biden. Again, I'm not disappointed. It was exactly what I expected. And unfortunately, no Democratic presidents have ever been really responsive to the issues of the black community at large. That said, black community is not going to run to the Republican Party. They're not going to follow Candace Owens, who is getting paid very, very much money to go and basically say bad things about black people. They're just not going to do that. That is, of course, unless Republicans stop being openly racist, which there's no chance of, and actually offer them something, which, again, they're not going to do. And look, again, there's really no incentive to be a Republican if you're black unless you're wealthy or you want to get wealthy by going on Fox News and doing what Candace Owens has done and trashing black people. That's essentially how the grift works. So that said, putting up a rich, incredibly eccentric black millionaire is not going to fool the average black voter. To assume otherwise is kind of racist, really, when you think about it. They're not a monolith. They're just not. And so, look, they set up a spoiler vote, very, very obvious. The guy was only there to help Donald Trump. And so we know, and the way that the system is set up is, unfortunately, you have situations where you have spoiler votes. Again, not at all interested in that. I would actually like a real system that allowed third-party challenges to be viable. But we don't have that system, and there's a lot of reform that we need to do so we can get that system. Now, more details here about the Republican donors. The documents suggested that Jill Vogel, a Republican Virginia state senator and longtime political operative, and her law firm Holtzman Vogel played a central role in West's campaign, while it also represented Trump in a Pennsylvania lawsuit ahead of the election. The firm has ties to the Honest Elections Project, a conservative dark money group pushing voting restrictions around the country. The West campaign also paid $60,000 to the Minnesota law firm Mormon Cardle in December 2020 after it filed a lawsuit basically alleging election fraud. That firm was also linked to the Amistad Project, a right-wing legal group that challenged election results and worked with Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani. A month after the election, the West campaign paid $152,000 to the law firm Baker Hostetler, which also works for the Republican National Committee. Sources who spoke to the Daily Beast also speculated that West may have been coordinating with Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who met with West at his Wyoming ranch before his campaign launch. Oops. Sad. Now, it's very clear, said Jordan Leibowitz, a spokesperson for the government watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, quote, it's very clear that the whole point behind Kanye's campaign was to try to re-elect Donald Trump. Again, very, very clear. Very clear. Whether it was a goal of Kanye is another issue, but he was clearly seen as a way to steal potential votes from Biden. Now, again, as far as that's concerned, okay, what I'm more concerned about is the legal stuff and how this could actually, hiding Republican donors is against the law. But I'll give you more information here about the ties to Republicans. So now, West's campaign sources, including lawyers who represented it, told the Daily Beast that it had been solicited by outside Republican operatives. In fact, Arizona attorney Tim Lasota, who represented the campaign, told the outlet this: I can tell you that he did not seek me out, somebody else did. The documents also show that Vogel began advising the West campaign on legal issues by at least August of 2020, although a source told the Beast that Vogel had been basically behind it all since the previous month. when the campaign had launched. Vogel has extensive ties in Republican politics. Her law firm has worked for Karl Rove's super PAC, American Crossroads, and the Senate Leadership Fund, which is tied to Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell. None of the West campaign filings to the FEC mention Vogel or any other Republican operatives who worked for the campaign. Leaving that out from the FEC filings is basically a gigantic no-no. Could be against the law. Now, again, whatever the reason, it doesn't really matter that he decided to hide the FEC filings. The fact is that he did. I don't know if Kanye was manipulated or not. To me, it doesn't really matter. Again, what's done is done. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters here is the fact that they tried to hide the Republican connection from the eyes of the law, from the eyes of scrutiny, and that, of course, is something that you just cannot get away with. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.